It was just after dawn on the distant outpost of Naxos 5, a planet of craggy rock formations and eerie silence, interrupted only by the gusts of cold, thin wind that swept across the surface. The skyline was punctuated with towering metallic structures, relics of an era of ambitious colonization. As the dual suns rose on the horizon, casting a dim orange glow over the landscape, a solitary craft descended from the charcoal-gray sky. The ship, a sleek, elongated vessel with an iridescent hull, hovered momentarily before it landed softly on the prepared platform. The people of Naxos 5, wrapped in their heavy garments, gathered at a safe distance to witness the event. Among them, Dr. Elena Maris watched intently, her eyes narrowed against the glare, her mind racing with possibilities and doubts. The hatch of the ship hissed open, releasing a burst of steam. A figure emerged, clad in a high-collared uniform that shimmered with the same iridescence as the ship's hull. This was no ordinary visitor. It was an envoy from the Terran Alliance, the powerful political entity that governed most of the human-settled galaxy. The envoy, known as Administrator Soren, stepped onto the platform, his gaze sweeping over the assembly of onlookers with measured indifference. "People of Naxos 5, Soren began, his voice amplified to reach the edges of the crowd. "I come bearing a proposal from the Terran Alliance, a proposal of unification and progress." Dr. Maris exchanged a skeptical glance with her colleague, Dr. Ren Lorca. They, like many others, had heard rumors of the Terran Alliance's so-called unifications, often little more than thinly veiled annexations. "We are aware of the challenges you face here," Soren continued, his tone smooth, almost rehearsed. "Resource scarcity, isolation, and the harsh environmental conditions. The Alliance offers you advanced technology, resources, and protection. In exchange, we seek governance over Naxos 5 to bring it into the fold of our great civilization." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some faces showed hopeful curiosity, but others, like Elena's, were marked by suspicion. Elena stepped forward, her voice carrying clear and strong. "Administrator Soren, we appreciate the hardships of our existence here, but Naxos 5 has been independent since its colonization, and we've adapted to our environment. What assurances can the Alliance provide that our rights and freedoms will be preserved under your governance?" Soren's smile was tight, almost forced. "Dr. Maris, the Alliance is a democratic body. Your people will enjoy the same rights and privileges as all citizens under our governance. You will have a voice in the Assembly, and your cultural heritage will be respected." But Elena was not convinced. She knew history well, the promises made and broken by larger powers when small, distant communities like hers became strategically important. The discussion continued, with Soren outlining the benefits of joining the Alliance: medical advancements, educational opportunities, and economic support. But behind the enticing promises, the core issue remained: sovereignty. As the meeting concluded, the crowd dispersed, the air filled with hushed conversations and contemplative silence. Elena and Ren walked back to their research facility, their minds heavy with the weight of the decision that lay before them. "We need to be cautious," Ren said, his brow furrowed. "The Alliance's offer is tempting, but at what cost?" Elena nodded, her gaze lost on the horizon where the two suns began their slow descent. "We must decide not just for ourselves, but for the future of Naxos 5. Will we trade our independence for comfort, or will we stand and face our challenges as free people?" As night fell on Naxos 5, the stars blinked into existence, a silent witness to the brewing storm of decision and consequence. The choice they faced was monumental, and whatever path they chose, it would irrevocably alter the fate of their world. In the dimly lit corridors of the research facility, Elena and Ren convened an urgent meeting with the settlement's leaders and key influencers. The room buzzed with low voices and the soft clatter of data pads. Maps of the planet and projections of the Terran Alliance's territories flickered on the holographic displays, casting an eerie light over the gathered faces. "Let's assess this logically," Elena began, her tone firm. "The Alliance's technology could indeed solve many of our immediate problems, but it's essential we consider long-term consequences. We know from other settlements that their protection comes at a steep price." a grizzled veteran of the original colonists. Commander Tycho Mael leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. And what of our mining operations? They'd surely take control. That's our lifeline. Control over our resources. Ren chimed in, tapping on his datapad to bring up a strategic analysis. Here's the data from the Leuton B settlement after their unification with the Alliance. Notice the shift in economic control and the gradual erosion of local governance. It's subtle but systematic. The room fell silent, absorbing the implications. Elena continued, her voice carrying the weight of their shared apprehension. Our autonomy is our strength. Yes, we struggle, but we decide our fate. That's what our forebears wanted when they settled here. Mira June, a biologist and community organizer, spoke up, her voice steady and compelling. We've managed to create a biodiverse ecosystem from scratch. We've adapted to Naxos V. Our methods could be compromised under Alliance rule. They prioritize efficiency over ecological balance. As the discussion veered towards ecological and cultural implications, Dr. Jansen, the settlement's chief technologist, raised a practical concern. What about a counterproposal? We engage with the Alliance not as subjects but as partners. We can negotiate for selective technology sharing without full governance transfer. Elena considered Jansen's suggestion thoughtfully. That's a precarious path, but it might be our best option if we can maintain a balance of power. We'll need to draft a detailed proposal, highlighting our strengths and what we can offer, making it clear where our boundaries lie. Commander Mile grunted his approval. We'll need to bolster our defenses then. Show them that while we're open to dialogue, we're not helpless. The meeting stretched into the early hours, with every possible scenario analyzed and debated. Plans were made to increase surveillance on the perimeter of the settlement and to discreetly enhance their defensive capabilities. A small, skilled team was assembled to draft the counterproposal, combining legal, technological, and diplomatic expertise. Ren pulled Elena aside as the others began to file out of the room. Do you think they'll go for it? He asked quietly. Elena's eyes reflected the faint light of the departing screens. They might. But whether they accept our terms or not, preparing for this negotiation will show them that Naxos 5 is not just another outpost to be absorbed. We stand firm, not out of stubbornness, but from a well-considered stance on our future. As they left the meeting room, the first hints of dawn were breaking over the rocky landscape. Despite the challenges ahead, there was a palpable sense of determination among the people of Naxos 5. They would negotiate from a position of strength, preserving their way of life against the looming shadow of the Terran Alliance. The Terran envoy, Administrator Soren, had established a temporary command center in the sleek vessel that remained perched silently on the landing platform. As he awaited the response from the leaders of Naxos 5, he analyzed the data streaming in from his scouts and drones, surveilling the planet's defenses and resource caches. Despite his outward calm, there was an undercurrent of urgency in his actions. The higher-ups in the Alliance were pressing for a swift integration. Back in the settlement, Elena and her team worked tirelessly, refining their counterproposal. They infused it with detailed terms for technological collaboration, ecological preservation, and a mutual defense pact, avoiding any clauses that would relinquish their control over governance. The day of the negotiation arrived, and the air was thick with tension. In a large hall, redesigned to facilitate this crucial dialogue, the leaders of Naxos 5 gathered, with Elena as their spokesperson. Soren and his aides entered, their expressions unreadable. Elena presented their counterproposal with a clear and resonant voice. We seek a partnership of equals, not subjugation under a guise of protection and progress. Naxos 5 is willing to share resources and knowledge, but our sovereignty is not for negotiation. Soren listened, his face betraying no emotion, but his mind raced. The proposal was more formidable and well-constructed than he had anticipated. It challenged the standard operational procedure of the Alliance and introduced complexities that would require careful handling. As he prepared his response, a coded message blinked on his datapad, a directive from the Alliance Command, urging him to finalize the deal without escalating to military confrontation, a tactic they wished to avoid in the public eye. We appreciate the depth of your proposal, Soren began, choosing his words carefully. However, the Alliance is concerned about the precedent your terms might set for other colonies. While we recognize your achievements in sustainability and independence, we must consider the broader implications for Alliance policy. Elena retorted, Naxos 5 stands as a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. We believe that our model could benefit other colonies, not threaten them. A rigid structure under the Alliance could stifle the potential for such innovations. The debate waxed intensely, with Soren pushing for compromise on governance, while Elena and her team stood firm. Hours passed, with each side dissecting and debating the minutiae of the agreement. Finally, Soren made a tentative concession. Perhaps there is a way to structure this partnership so that Naxos 5 retains a form of autonomous governance, under the oversight of an Alliance-appointed council. Elena sensed the shift in Soren's stance. His offer was a significant move towards their position. We will consider this, provided that the council includes representatives chosen by Naxos 5, and that any Alliance oversight is subject to our judicial review. Negotiations continued, stretching into another day. Both sides drafted and redrafted clauses, slowly inching towards an agreement that might, just might, satisfy both the Alliance's strategy and Naxos 5's fierce independence. As the final session closed, the documents were lined with annotations and digital signatures. A cautious optimism pervaded among Elena's team, tempered by the knowledge of the delicate balance they had to maintain in the days to come. Soren departed with the agreement, his ship ascending into the starlit sky, leaving the inhabitants of Naxos 5 to ponder the future they had fought so hard to shape. A future still unwritten, but now under their own terms. In the wake of the negotiations, the atmosphere on Naxos 5 shifted. The settlement buzzed with both a sense of victory and the sobering realization of the vigilance that would be required. The agreed terms were a triumph, yet the true test would be in their implementation and the Alliance's adherence to them. Elena found herself at the center of planning the future steps. With the establishment of the new council rapidly approaching, she spearheaded the selection of its members, ensuring a fair representation of Naxos 5's diverse community. Each candidate was vetted for their expertise, integrity, and commitment to the planet's autonomy. Meanwhile, Ren was tasked with overseeing the integration of Alliance technology. The agreement had allowed for the introduction of advanced medical and agricultural technologies under strict conditions that they would be adapted and managed by Naxos 5's own scientists. This was crucial to prevent any dependence on the Alliance that could be leveraged against them. As the Council convened for its inaugural session, there was a palpable tension among its members. They were pioneers of a new governance model, one that could set a precedent for other colonies. Their decisions in the coming months would determine the viability of true autonomy under the watchful eye of a more powerful entity. In the Alliance command ship orbiting Naxos 5, Soren monitored the progress. His superiors were pleased with the compromise, yet they remained skeptical of its practicality. Keep them close, but not too close, was the directive he received, implying a balance of oversight and independence that he was now responsible for maintaining. The technological transfers began under tight security. Each piece of equipment, each software module was scrutinized for backdoors or any control mechanisms that could override local authority. Ren and his team worked tirelessly, often consulting with Alliance technicians who were cooperative but clearly unaccustomed to such scrutiny. Elena attended the council meetings, where debates often ran long into the night. The Cultural Committee, particularly, faced a daunting task. They were charged with preserving Naxos 5's cultural identity amidst the influx of external influences. They organized exhibitions, talks, and workshops that celebrated their heritage, reminding everyone of the planet's history and the journey their forebears had embarked on to maintain their independence. On one such evening, as Elena walked through a gallery showcasing artifacts from the early days of the colony, she was approached by a young artist whose work captured the stark, haunting beauty of Naxos 5. "Your efforts have given us a voice, a chance to redefine our identity," the artist said, her expression earnest. Elena smiled, touched by the remark. It was moments like these that reminded her of the stakes they were fighting for. not just political autonomy, but the soul of their community. Reports came in periodically about the Alliance's movements in nearby sectors. There was an unsettling increase in military activity, ostensibly part of a routine exercise. Yet the timing suggested a show of strength, a reminder of the power they wielded just beyond the reach of Naxos 5. The Council decided to send a diplomatic envoy to the Alliance headquarters, a move aimed at reinforcing their commitment to the agreement while subtly probing the Alliance's long-term intentions. The envoy, a seasoned diplomat named Kale, was briefed extensively. His mission was not only to reassure the Alliance of Naxos 5's cooperation, but also to assert their vigilance and capability to govern themselves. As Kale's ship prepared for departure, Elena watched from the control center, her thoughts a mixture of hope and concern. The balance they had achieved was fragile, and the eyes of the galaxy were on them, watching to see if a small planet could indeed stand equal among giants. The shuttle carrying Kale arced through the cosmos, its destination the gleaming central hub of the Terran Alliance. Inside, Kale rehearsed his points meticulously, aware that his words carried the weight of his entire planet's future. Each phrase was crafted to convey both respect and the unyielding spirit of Naxos 5. Back on the planet, Elena and her team monitored the situation closely. They set up a real-time communication link in the control center, prepared to support Kale with any additional information he might need during his negotiations. The screens flickered with data, analyses, and live feeds from the council room, where other members sat ready to offer their insights. Simultaneously, Ren was overseeing the final stages of implementing the agricultural technology from the Alliance. The new systems promised a significant boost in food production, but his team remained vigilant, adapting the technology to fit the unique ecological parameters of Naxos 5. Every adjustment was documented, every result logged to ensure full transparency and local control. In the Alliance headquarters, Kale was ushered into a vast conference room where diplomats and officials gathered, their expressions ranging from politely interested to openly skeptical. The room buzzed with low murmurs as Kale took his position at the speaker's podium. "Esteemed members of the Terran Alliance," Kale began, his voice clear and resonant. "Naxos 5 stands today as a beacon of what can be achieved through resilience and autonomy. Our partnership, based on mutual respect and shared benefits, is a testament to what the future of interplanetary relations could look like." As he spoke, holograms of Naxos 5's achievements floated around the room, images of their revitalized ecosystems, technological innovations, and cultural festivals. Each image was a statement of their capability and independence. However, the heart of his mission was to address the increasing military maneuvers near Naxos 5's sector. "While we appreciate the need for security and order in the galaxy," Kale continued, "it is imperative that these actions do not undermine the autonomy or the sense of security of the sovereign entities within the Alliance." The room stiffened at his words. A senior diplomat, a high-ranking officer in the Alliance's strategy department, responded. "The exercises you mention are standard procedure to ensure the security of all Alliance members. It is not our intent to project any threat to Naxos 5. Kale nodded, acknowledging the response but pressing further. "We propose an observer status in these exercises for Naxos 5 representatives. It would serve as a good faith measure, reinforcing the transparent and cooperative spirit of our agreement." The proposal sparked whispers among the officials. Granting observer status was not standard policy, and represented a shift in protocol that some might view as a concession of too much control. Meanwhile, on Naxos 5, tension rose as reports flooded in about a new deployment of Alliance ships near their mining zones. Elena convened an emergency session of the Council, and decisions were made to send a diplomatic note expressing their concern, coupled with a subtle reminder of the agreed terms of autonomy. As Kale's negotiations continued, the balance of power subtly shifted. His firm stance and the undeniable proof of Naxos 5's success created a compelling argument for the Alliance to reconsider its approach. Kale concluded his address with a call for strengthened collaboration, emphasizing that the strength of the Alliance lay in its diversity and the respect it held for each member's sovereignty. His words, measured and powerful, resonated in the hall, leaving a mark on the proceedings. As the session adjourned, Kale's counterparts approached him, their expressions now a mix of respect and contemplation. Dialogues opened, strategies discussed, and while the path forward was fraught with complexity, the door to meaningful change had been nudged ajar. In the days following the diplomatic meeting at the Terran Alliance headquarters, the political atmosphere became charged with a new, cautious optimism. Both parties had laid their cards on the table, and the dialogue that ensued was more open and earnest than any previous interactions. The Alliance, recognizing the potential fallout of ignoring the concerns of Naxos 5, began to recalibrate its approach. On Naxos 5, Elena monitored the developments with an analytical eye. The response from the Alliance about observer status was pending, but the initial feedback was surprisingly positive. The emergency diplomatic note had been effective, prompting a pause in military maneuvers near their sector. This small victory was a testament to their growing diplomatic acumen. Back on the Alliance's space station, Kale engaged in round-the-clock negotiations. The discussions were intense, each session ending with incremental agreements that would later be debated again for clarity and intent. The observer status, a pivotal point of the negotiations, was particularly contentious, but Kale's persistence paid off. An agreement was reached that would allow Naxos 5 representatives to attend and observe military exercises, a significant step towards mutual trust and transparency. Ren, meanwhile, continued his oversight of the technology integration. The agricultural projects were thriving, with yields projected to exceed expectations. The success was a crucial leverage point in the negotiations, demonstrating Naxos 5's capability to not only utilize but also enhance the technologies provided by the Alliance. As the final negotiation session convened, Elena joined via a secure communication link, her presence symbolizing the unity and resolve of Naxos 5. The final document, encompassing all the terms and agreements reached over the arduous weeks of discussion, was laid out before all parties. We have, before us, a framework that not only respects the sovereignty of Naxos 5, but also strengthens the Alliance by proving that flexibility and respect for autonomy can lead to greater stability, Kale stated in his closing remarks. The Alliance representatives, influenced by the pragmatic and forward-thinking approach of their counterparts, agreed. The document was signed, sealing a groundbreaking agreement that could very well serve as a model for other systems under Alliance influence. Celebrations erupted on Naxos 5 as news of the successful negotiation reached home. The community gathered, their spirits high with the realization that their small planet had stood firm against a galactic power and emerged not just unscathed, but respected. Elena addressed her people, her voice echoing through the gathered crowd. Today we celebrate not just a diplomatic victory, but the affirmation of our values. We have shown that even in the vastness of space, principles of fairness, autonomy, and respect hold power. Let us move forward, continuing to build our society in this spirit. As the festivities continued, a sense of pride and renewed purpose filled the air. People of all ages and backgrounds shared stories of their experiences, their hopes for the future, and their aspirations for a society that could maintain its identity while contributing meaningfully to the galaxy. In the quiet moments after the celebration, Elena stood looking out over the landscape of Naxos 5, the planet's two suns setting on the horizon, casting long shadows and bathing the land in a soft, golden light. The challenges ahead would be many, but for now, there was peace and a deep, gratifying sense of accomplishment. The relationship with the Terran Alliance would continue to evolve, of course, but Naxos 5 had firmly established itself as a beacon of independence and diplomacy, a testament to what could be achieved when a community stands united in its values and vision.